Today, I'm joined by Congressman Doug Lamborn from Colorado. Congressman Lamborn, I'd like to talk to you about this recent report from the Washington Free Beacon that shows that the Biden administration is reportedly heading towards restoring U.S. aid to the Palestinian Authority. And not only that, the State Department is reportedly still aware that the Palestinian Authority is funding terrorism and using aid for terrorism. So you were the sponsor of the Taylor Force Act, which conditioned U.S. aid on the ending of the Pay for Slave program. What are your initial thoughts on this?
My initial thoughts are that this is reprehensible. This is illegal on the part of the Biden administration if this is actually what they intend to do, and it's immoral. And I'll explain both of those. It's illegal because when we passed the Taylor Force Act, which I introduced several years ago and it became law, it said that no money can go to the Palestinian Authority while they are turning around and using money to pay stipends to those who are in prison for having committed acts of terrorism, including killing Jews, or in the case of Taylor Force, an American, or their surviving families if they get killed during their terrorist attack. So it is illegal for them to do that. Now, there is a limited humanitarian exception for hospitals, water projects, and vaccination of children. But the amount of money that the Biden administration is talking about would go way beyond that. And it's immoral. The reason it's immoral is, and I can't understand how in the world the Biden administration and Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the others are even thinking about this, is because the Palestinians are taking money from US taxpayers, should this materialize, and turning around and paying rewards to terrorists who have killed innocent people. Taylor Force was an American student who was, he had served in Afghanistan as a US Army soldier, and he was studying, he was in Israel as part of his studies for his business degree. And he was killed in a senseless terrorist attack as a innocent bystander. But whether it's Israelis or Americans, we can't reward terrorist attacks by paying money to them after they are imprisoned, or to their families if they're killed, frankly. And right. What's the worst of all about this whole setup is that they will pay more money to those who kill more people. It's a reward for acts of terrorism. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris should be ashamed of themselves.
Right. And that's exactly what this report says, is that they're completely aware, even of the latest number, which is reported at $155 million that they're paying to the imprisoned Palestinian terrorists right now. So this is a big concern on a national security level. And you actually sent a letter last month to the Biden administration raising concerns over the reports that they were thinking about restoring this aid. You also raised concerns about two different administration officials. Have you heard back on this? Have you seen any movement?
No, we've sent the letter demanding a response. Maybe they're slow in responding to us. We haven't heard back from them yet. But let me say something on the diplomatic level. When someone is flouting your laws, and the PA is doing that, they basically have said, we don't care what you said. They brazenly are making these payments despite the US law. So they are brazen about it. So rewarding them, I would think, would not be good diplomacy. You're rewarding people for bad behavior. And I don't see how that furthers any interest of the United States. I don't see how that furthers peace in the Middle East. I don't see how that furthers an impression of U.S. strength in the region. It does none of those things.
Right. And essentially under Taylor Force, like you said, it would be illegal. However, there is that loophole. Do you think that they would somehow circumvent the law and use that loophole there? What are you hearing about that?
We're trying to get to the bottom of that, and we don't have an answer for that yet.
Do you plan on taking any further action, sending more letters, introducing legislation? It seems like, at least from the Taylor Force standpoint, that was a pretty bipartisan push. So do you expect that there would be a bipartisan push to hold the Biden administration accountable for this?
Well, absolutely. It's bipartisan in the U.S. Congress that there is support for Israel. Now, some are more sincere about that than others, but and there's a few that don't give any acknowledgement at all to the need of having a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. But I would say the great majority of Republicans and many of the Democrats do give that verbal support. Now, this will test how sincere and how serious they are if it comes to light that the Biden administration is breaking the law.